G7 world leaders touched down in Japan ahead of high-level talks on global security in Hiroshima.
Devastating floods in Italy kill at least 11 people, with others still missing as tens of thousands of homes are evacuated.
G7 world leaders have touched down in Japan ahead of high-level talks in Hiroshima. US President Joe Biden was among the first of Japan's Western allies to be received by Prime Minister Fumio Kishida. China's increasingly assertive foreign policy and Russia's war in Ukraine are expected to dominate this weekend's agenda. Just back from a two-day Council of Europe summit in Iceland, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz had a quick turnaround in Berlin before arriving in Japan, while UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak appeared to bring the British weather along with him. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau also made the journey across the Pacific. The site of the world's first atomic bomb attack, all eyes will be fixed firmly on Hiroshima for the next 3 days, as leaders once again search desperately for answers to global security questions.
Latest reports from northern Italy say at least 11 people have been killed and others are still unaccounted for after intense rainfall flooded cities, towns and villages. In Lugo, in the worst affected Emilia-Romagna region, around 6 months' worth of rain fell in just 36 hours. Over 20,000 people have been evacuated as up to 24 rivers burst their banks. In the city of Faenza, cars were submerged and basements flooded by thick, gooey mud. Officials said damage from the flooding could run to billions of euros. Farmers warned of incalculable losses. Local mayors said some remote villages were still completely isolated on Thursday because landslides had made roads impassable and severed phone lines. Thousands of homes were without electricity and emergency services were overwhelmed. The Formula One Grand Prix that was to be held this weekend in Imola has been cancelled.
These firefighter brigades from Madrid are busy carrying out prevention work in the forest surrounding the Spanish capital. It's ahead of the summer, but the drought and the high temperatures recorded this spring are moving towards a complicated wildfire season.
Nuestra labor aquí es hacer un trabajo de reducción del combustible con objeto de que los incendios, cuando se produzcan, se desarrollen de una manera menos virulenta.
Weather conditions have forced the campaign to start earlier and to reinforce fighting teams. While work continues on foot with heavy machinery, the brigades are ready to act in the event of an alarm.
Lo que hemos hecho es un sistema mixto, es decir, los trabajadores siguen haciendo trabajos preventivos y además les hemos puesto ya la bomba forestal pesada, que es la que llevan en extinción de incendios forestales durante todo el verano, en el que están ya en modo extinción.
This spring, Spain has already experienced conditions typical to summer, when temperatures are above 30 degrees with humidity below 30% and winds at more than 30 kilometers an hour is called a fire triangle. So far this year, more than 58,000 hectares have already burnt.
Ahora mismo ya se están dando incendios que están fuera de la capacidad de extinción. No podemos trabajar contra llamas de 50 metros.
Euronews attended one of the training sessions of Madrid's helicopter brigades. After landing, the helicopter took off to support the teams from the air.
Brigadas helitransportadas como estas son capaces de desplegarse en cuestión de minutos para empezar a trabajar sobre el terreno a la espera de nuevos medios terrestres. Una acción rápida y temprana es fundamental para evitar que el fuego se salga de control.
Global warming, along with the El Niño phase, is forecasting record temperatures over the next 5 years, according to experts. Fighting fires also implies a change of behaviour in our mentality.
Nadie es consciente de que con nuestro propio comportamiento nos estamos arriesgando. Nos tenemos que adaptar todos a lo que la naturaleza nos está presentando delante.
At the airbase, the siren sounds, but this time the alert is not an exercise. A long fire season awaits these firefighters, as well as residents this year.
One by one, Chinese President Xi Jinping met with attendees as he hosted the China Central Asia Summit held in Xi'an, a city historically linked to the Silk Road network of global trade routes. Coinciding with the G7 leaders meeting in Japan, experts say this summit reflects Beijing's desire to strengthen regional influence and fill the vacuum that Russia's war in Ukraine has created in the former Soviet states. The first of its kind in 31 years, the summit aims to expand China's reach and advance transport links. Beijing's trade with Central Asian countries reached 64 billion euros in 2022, and in the first quarter of this year rose by 22%.
The official topic of this week's Central Asian Summit in Xi'an is the promotion of China's Belt and Road Initiative project. But according to Western analysts, it is less about the transit of goods and more about Russia's loss of influence in the region, with summit host Beijing ready to take its place.
It's the first time that Russia, which for decades, if not a couple of centuries, has been the hegemony in Central Asia, is excluded. And this follows on in the wake of Russia losing friendships across the region and China pouncing on the opportunity to become the new hegemon.
After the start of the war in Ukraine, plans for the transit of Chinese goods through Russian territory were frozen. Now, participants at the Xi'an summit are set to discuss a middle route which completely bypasses Russia. Russia's trade with Central Asia doubled last year. However, the EU says there is evidence that the former Soviet republics are using re-exports to help the Kremlin avoid sanctions, something Brussels plans to target with a set of new measures.
And this, to my mind, is the end of Russia's pivot to Asia that was launched by Vladimir Putin at the APEC meeting in Vladivostok in 2012, when he said that the purpose of this is for the Russian economy to catch Chinese winds in the sails of the Russian economy. Now I would say that the Russian economy is dismasted and drifting as a wreck in the sea. And the Chinese don't give favors.
Russia is also losing its position as the guarantor of security in Central Asia. Experts say China is not yet ready to assume the role and remains focused on doing business.
Prince Harry and his wife Meghan said they were caught up in a paparazzi car chase with near-catastrophic consequences following a charity event in New York. Their spokesperson described it as an unrelenting pursuit, while police said photographers made the journey challenging. The incident has stirred memories of the 1997 car crash that killed Harry's mother, Princess Diana, in Paris.
I think all of us, I don't think there's many of us who don't recall how his mom died, and it would be horrific to lose an innocent bystander during a chase like this, and something to have happened to them as well. So I think we have to be extremely responsible. I thought that was a bit reckless and irresponsible.
A taxi driver who picked the couple up as they evaded photographers said they appeared nervous.
Nice people, they look nervous. I mean, I think they were being chased the whole day or something, so they were pretty nervous, you know. But the security guard, he was on it.
Prince Harry has a strained relationship with the world's press, especially photographers. He has referred to the paparazzi as a pack of dogs who constantly hounded his mother. Together with Meghan, the couple stepped down from royal duties and moved to the US in 2020, a move they said was partly due to harassment from UK tabloids.
UK telecoms company BT Group has announced that it plans to shed up to 55,000 jobs by the end of the decade and replace some of them with artificial intelligence. That would represent up to 40% of its workforce. The communications giant said the cuts are part of an overhaul aimed at slimming down its workforce to slash costs. Just a few days ago, wireless carrier Vodafone, also UK-based but operating in Europe and Africa, said it's to lay off 11,000 workers as part of a major revamp.
Poland is doing away with toll charges on its national motorways. The government has adopted a draft law introducing free travel on those managed by the state from the 1st of July. The abolition of motorway tolls is one of the 3 specifics of the Law and Justice election programme. The country's Prime Minister, Mateusz Morawiecki, says the government builds highways primarily to serve people and not to be a machine to earn money.
A shanty town in French-owned Mayotte is to be demolished after a court reinstated the controversial take-back operation known as Wambushu. Around 100 families are said to be involved. The policy aims to clear slums and send illegal migrants back to neighbouring Comoros in order to improve the security and living conditions of Mayotte locals. The operation was suspended on the 24th of April as a judge ruled the demolition would put the lives and homes of the shantytown inhabitants in danger. Some 1,800 French security forces, including hundreds from Paris, were deployed for the operation. Clashes between youths and security forces have broken out on the Caribbean island, and the operation has fueled political tensions with Comoros over immigration. A Hebrew Bible more than 1,000 years old has sold for just over €35 million, setting a record for the most valuable manuscript ever to be auctioned. The leather-bound Codex Sassoon, which dates to the late 9th to the early 10th century, is the earliest near-complete Hebrew Bible known to still exist. It was sold by Sotheby's in New York following a 4-minute bidding battle between 2 bidders. The Bible was bought by Alfred H. Moses, who is donating it to the Annu Museum of the Jewish people in Tel Aviv, Israel.